Hi everybody, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, and welcome back to this beginner's build of this lovely little kit. This is the Airfix K2 ambulance in 1/35 scale. Lovely little model, going together very, very nicely. So here we are now with part 5, and in part 4 we finish off the chassis. We've got the front mud guards and everything on, we've got the wheels on, well the hubs on. If you remember, I've changed the build sequence slightly. I am going to make another build change to the build sequence at some point and add these little side lights here. Reason being, I want to prime this assembly. I'm not going to do the top of the fenders at the moment, but when I do, I want to have everything fitted before I prime. Now, if you remember, I've spoken about not painting parts before you assemble, doing as much as you can, build as much as you can before you start painting. It makes life a lot easier. And basically what we're going to do here is prime it. Now, if I were to prime these top of these fenders, so I know everything's nice and smooth, and then glue on my little side lights, I'm going to end up with basically a glue mark. It can't be avoided. So what we're going to do is glue them in first and then prime it and everything and go from there. Same here with this bull bar thing on the front. But at the moment we're just going to prime the chassis and everything and check everything's good. We're going to check these straps on the fuel tank have come out all right. I want to make sure they're okay. So we'll go like that. I've also got the wheels and tyres, and we're going to prime them. I'm going to use Mr. Surfacer Black. Okay, this is Mr. Surfacer 1500 Black. This is Mr. Finishing Surfacer. It's a primer. What I do, I thin it down. If you haven't seen, today is the 25th of September. I'm getting a load of these videos done before I actually put them out. Yesterday, the 24th of September 2022, I put out a video about airbrushing for beginners. So if you are new to airbrushing, go and have a look at that. There's lots of little general tips in there you can follow. And we also cover spraying over XF paints with LP paints and stuff. So got the airbrush here, running at about 18 psi. As you can see, I've got some paint in there already, and as you know, I mentioned in that video about mixing the paint in the airbrush. Don't dirty up other plastic cups and stuff like that. What I do here, I've actually mixed this up in here with thinners and marked it air, and I do the same with a lot of my LP paints. I basically fill them up. Generally, as a rule of thumb, if you've got a new pot of Tamiya paint, whether it be LP, XF or whatever, if you fill it, use this little white piece of plastic. If you can imagine on the inside of the jar, this point here, okay, so where the thread starts or just above, if you fill it with thinner to there and then stir and shake it well, it will be just about right. Okay, then you can always add a bit. You can leave the lid off for a couple of hours and it'll thicken up, or you can add a bit more thinners to thin it down. But generally, if you've got a new pot, unused, brand new off the shelf, if you do that, you're going to be about right. Okay, so that's what I do, and it's generally about right. Sometimes I add a little bit more. As I said in that video, I like to thin paint a bit more than some, and that's why I say, when people ask how much thinner should I use, the answer is, as someone mentioned below the comments in that video, how much thinner should I use? The right amount. Okay, it's the amount that you want to work with. Okay, I have seen people, there is a video, I've actually got it on a DVD, or it might even be a video, it's that old, and a guy is there and he's talking about airbrushing figures, and he must spend 10 minutes spraying a white metal figure with white primer before you start to see any colour on there. His paint is that thin. So, it's how you like to work. I like to work with it how I like to work with it, which is pretty thin. So doing stuff like this, we're just banging on a coat of primer, and we're just going to get a coat of primer on there so that we know we're all good. And as I say, all I'm doing here, I want to look at these seams on the fuel tanks, and I'm going to get all around the axles and the springs and everything done, and go from there. So I'll get my piece of paper towel here. I'll do a little bit of spraying now so you can see how I do it. So we've got the wheels and tyres there. So piece of scrap paper over here, just check everything's good. I'm not going to do too much. I'll do some in the booth. I may put the camera in the booth so you can see me in there, but basically come in nice and lightly and just very, very gradually, very, very slowly build up the colour. As you can see, I'm not just plastering it on, and going in very, very gently. And the reason I'm doing that is because what I'm trying to do is make sure that everything is black, because this model is going to be painted olive drab SCC 15, and this tan coloured plastic will stick out like mad if we don't cover it all. So we get in there and we make sure everything is covered. So you can see now that wheel hub on the back of there is all covered and there's no tan plastic showing through. We're coming from this side and get the outside of that ball joint, and then I'm going to go around my leaf spring. As you see, just a little bit at a time, not trying to spray the whole thing. And this is where you'll see some people swear by using aerosols. You can't do stuff like this with an aerosol. It's impossible, because the aerosol, if I was doing this with an aerosol, it would be flooded with paint by now. So all I'm doing is getting my detailed bits and pieces done. I get the exhaust as well. Now normally you'd be doing this in a booth with an extractor fan, and you'd be wearing a mask. Obviously I can't wear a mask because I'm talking to you guys. I could do you know, a post video over talk, but I don't like doing those. So there we go, we get the top of the axle here. As you can see, sometimes you can build too much and you can't actually get it painted. But normally you should be fine. But I'm doing this on camera now so you can see the way I do it. So you can see I'm not just plastering the paint on, I'm going in very, very gently, very slowly. I'm just building it up and concentrating on one area at a time, not just, you know, not just going like this. I'm concentrating on one bit at a time, because the whole objective here, this is a primer, but it's also what we call a pre-shade. So when I'm painting this black, I'm aware that we're going to see some of the black, because what I will do when it comes to painting the chassis, I am not going to be this precise with the paint. And that way what happens in the background, in the areas that we don't get to, rather than having a bright tan plastic, we will have black paint and it will act like a shadow. So you will see black rather than tan coloured plastic. There we go, concentrating again in these little areas. I get the back of the axle now. At the bottom of the axle, come round to the front of the axle. Onto this leaf spring. Okay. And look at the chassis leg. Get the chassis leg all done. In behind there. Inside that fender. So as you can see, little bits at a time, I'm concentrating in one area. If you just go all over, you'll have a million little bits you've missed. Whereas if you concentrate on one piece at a time, then you can make sure you've got the paint everywhere. Just get over the top of that hub. Don't need to paint the outside of the hubs because they're going to be glued anyway. And obviously if you can avoid having glue in areas, paint sorry, in areas where you're going to be gluing, that's better. Okay, we're going to spray the top of this area here because there's a flange I want to get onto. Same there. Okay, and as you can see, if you look down in there, you can see on the back of that hub, you can see the tan plastic showing through. That's the shadowing that we don't want. We want to make sure we get that all done in black. Concentrating on the track rod there. There we go, so you can see we've done the front axle, we've done the front hubs, and everything is nicely painted black. Concentrate on the sump. All the angles, get in there, make sure you get painted everywhere. You can see I've used hardly any paint whatsoever. And then we'll get under here, get under there. Again, making sure we've got no tan showing through. And I'm now going to have to, I can start to smell the paint in the room. I'm going to have to get into the booth now because I can't keep going because I'll stink the house out. There we go. So that's the front end all done. As you can see, everything there is black, other than the inside, the fenders, the mud guards. So a little bit on that leaf spring there I've missed. And there we go, looking around it, can't see any shadows, a little bit more paint on that back of that wheel hub, or brake drum should I say. And also I'm going to make sure I get down in here because some of that down in there may be visible underneath the radiator, so we'll make sure that's all painted in there. So the sole objective is to not see any tan coloured plastic. We just want to see black. Okay, as I said, I'm not doing the top of the fenders, but I will do the underside. Let's just get the underside of this one. Just build it up slowly. And the reason I'm using this Mr. Surfacer is because I believe it is the best primer there is. There are many different primers out there. If you can't use solvent paints for whatever reason, then you can't use this because it is not very nice stuff. But if you're able to use solvent paints because you have extraction or whatever you're spraying outside, then I would recommend this to anyone. It's brilliant. There are other primers around. You can get the MIG Ammo One Shot, which is basically the same as Stynylrez, but basically it is Stynylrez. It's a great primer. It's not too smelly. The biggest downside to it is the fact that it tends to go thick, and the problem I've always found is thinning it. Now, some people say use Tamiya X20A. I've tried using Mr. Colour leveling thinners once and it worked. Next time I tried it, it turned it into cheesecake. So I don't know, or cottage cheese should I say. So I don't know, but I like to use Mr. Surfacer, Mr. Finisher Surfacer 1500 black, thinned out with the Mr. Colour leveling thinners. This one here. Don't use Mr. Rapid thinners. The whole idea of this one is it dries really fast. So if you have got a sort of dusty finish on your model, you'll end up with a dusty finish. Whereas leveling thinner, it will level out and you'll get a lovely smooth finish. Okay, so you can see what I've done there. So what I think I'll do now is I'll see if I can set a camera up so you're looking at me in the booth, and then I can speed it up 2 or 3 times. One other thing you might see me using is this here. I did a video about this. This is a stand, and what we can do when we've got our wheels are mounted here on skewer sticks, once they're painted we can stand them up in there like so, okay, and they can dry. So they can stand like that in there and they can dry and they can't touch each other and they'll all dry nicely. And that is literally made with a strip of corrugated cardboard rolled up, and then I've put parcel tape around it. So you've got a free stand there. When I did the video, a lot of people said, oh, go and buy this, that and the other, or buy one of these or buy one of that. The whole objective of doing the video was to show you how to make a paint stand basically for free from a piece of cardboard you were probably going to recycle and a bit of parcel tape, you know. And everybody was telling me about going and buying these flower display bases, you know, the green things, or go and buy one of these, or you can buy, if you want to, you can buy one of these. These things are lovely. This is the Infini paint clip stand, and they'll stand up and they're lovely. Disadvantage with them is a lot of the skewers, well they do, but some of the bigger skewers won't fit. But this is nice because it's very flat, it's very stable, and it is lovely. I use it a lot. But if you are on a budget Then these are basically barbecue skewers. You buy them, they come about 12-13 inches long. You point, sharpen the ends, whatever, make them to whatever you need, and then just push them into the wheels and hold them. This here is a professional one. This is made by Infini, and it has a very, very sharp point on it, and it's got like an etched finish on the end, and it's designed to grip the part, and it's great if you've got tiny holes, but it's no good with the bigger holes like you got on these wheels. What I've got here is there's quite a big hole in the back of the wheel, and you can see that I've sharpened the skewer to a blunt point, and I'm able to force that in there like that. So there we are. So that's what I'll be doing. So I'll see if I can get a camera set up, and I'll get over to the booth and we'll finish off this painting. Okay, so this is the Bart Sharp, I think it's called the 004. Have a look on the Bart Sharp website. It's the best extractor they do, and as you can see, it's really wide, and it also has twin fans, and it's really, really, really good. It comes with a light as well. You have a light which you can dim, so you could also use it as a photo booth if you put some black paper in there, which would be good. So you can see the light is dimmable, and it also has the extractor, which is quite loud. When it's on full blast, you can wind it down to a very low suction. Now I generally use it on full blast all the time, so you can't hear what I'm saying, but that's how I like to do it. So I'm going to get the window open, and then get the hose out the window and get some spraying done, and I'll put some music on and we'll go from there. Okay, so now you can see on there, empty, finished our paint. So we need to get some more paint in there, but you can see we've done all that with just one layer of paint, with one pot of paint, should I say. So hopefully you've learned something from that. So I think I'll get this finished off camera and I'll get some more paint, and then I'll see you back when we do the tyres. I changed my mind. I thought I'd rather show you on this camera. It's easier to show you. So when we come to spraying tyres, and no, I'm not spraying the tyres black. Tyres are not black. Tyres are very dark grey. But I'm not taking the tyres black. What I'm doing is giving the wheels a prime in black, because we'll do the same. We'll have the shadowing effect. You'll see what I mean, and it looks great. But what I'm doing is priming the tyres black just to check for the seam, and also to give them an undercoat to work with the greys. So when we spray the tyres, if we just do this, You can see there what's happening. We're not getting into the tread. So what we need to do is spray a tangential spray across the tyre like so. Okay, and then do the same the other way. Okay, so there you are. And then when we come to the outer edge, we'll do the same. We'll spray tangentially and then do it the other way as well. Same on here, tangentially, and then we can do the other side as well. And that way, what you get is your tyre painted black all over, and you don't have any bits of brown plastic showing through. When it comes to spraying the wheel itself, just very, very slowly build up. As you can see, I'm changing the angle that I'm spraying on because I want to make sure I get in there and get all those bits and pieces. So we've got no brown plastic showing through whatsoever. Same with the back. There we go. So happy with that. And if we do get any seams, we can sand them out and then paint them again. So there you can see we have a totally black tyre. Use my cardboard stand. I'll show you the difference if you don't do what I've just told you. So there's our tyre all painted. But you can see that when you look at it from certain angles, you've got all brown plastic showing through. So again, do it tangentially. And that way we get all the tread. Same with the wheel, make sure you come in all the angles. As you can see there, again, it's all black. There's no brown bits showing through. Okay, so I think I may as well do the rest off camera, although I'll put the other camera on so you can see what I'm doing. we go, all done. Hope you enjoyed that. Let's get back to the bench. Okay, moving on. So we've done our black painting and everything. That was done about 24 hours ago. So I know that's all nice and dry, and you can see the wonderful finish you get with the Mr. Finishing Surfacer. So really, really nice. You can see there the chassis. It's a very, very nice base coat, basically, to start with. So I've decided to go for, there's 4 options in this kit. You don't have to do the one I'm doing at all, but if you are a beginner and new to painting, then this will be the easiest one for you. So I'm either doing this one here, Auxiliary Territorial Service, or this one here probably, which is 30 Corps Motor Ambulance Convoy, Royal Army Service Corps, North West York 1944, as a mouthful. So that's the correct colour. I do get some questions because apparently the Gecko Models kit has the colour as brown. The correct colour for anything sort of post mid 44, I think it is, would be SCC 15 Olive Drab. Now that is not to be confused with US Olive Drab. Hang on, where have I got Olive Drab? Here we go. I have Olive Drab here. And you can see this is the American Olive Drab like you'd get on a Sherman, and this is SCC 15 Olive Drab. Now apparently towards the end of the war they kind of all went to like the US colour. But do you know what, to be honest, you know, where did they get their paint from? Who was checking the colours? And who was going to say, nope, stop, you cannot paint that tank, that's the wrong shade of olive drab? It wasn't going to happen, was it? So, you know, as long as it's a dark green colour, then go for it. But I do find this has a kind of browny touch to it as well, a bit of a brown in it. So this is the colour I'm going to use. This is the AK Real Colours SCC 15 Olive Drab. It's number RC037. This is not to be confused with the AK paints that come in these bottles like this. Okay, these paints, the AK paints, I find them absolutely awful. These paints I find absolutely awesome. So they are complete opposite ends of the spectrum in my opinion, and these things I love. So basically what I'm going to, this is a brand new pot which I haven't used. I have just looked at another pot I had, and if you look at it, I don't know if you're going to see the difference, but that one is a lot browner than the new one. So something's going on there. I don't know what's going on. We can see it in the lid, there's a lot of brown in it. So what I've done is just the tiny little bit that was in there I've put into that jar, and then I'm going to use, I never throw my jars away, I recycle them, I clean them out, and then you can reuse them. So we've got this one here. So this is the SCC 15 Olive Drab. I'm going to use Mr. Colour Leveling Thinners because for me it's the best thinners known to man or beast. And what I'm going to do is take my airbrush, just as before. If you remember, we don't use drops or anything, we just, you know, chuck some thinners in there. I'm going to do quite a thin mix because we've got the black base and I want the black base to show through. So that will give us like a shadowing effect. So then I can take my brush. As somebody mentioned in my beginner video, make sure the brush you're using is old and good. Don't go using a brand new cheap nasty brush, because you will find you will lose bristles, and the bristles will get into the airbrush and block your nozzle. So just put a bit more paint in there. We've got a nice thin mix, as I said before. Pull it up the side, see what it looks like. Yeah, that's a nice sort of watery mix that will go on really nice. Right, so we can put the airbrush over there out of the way. We don't need much paint because we're not going to be putting much on. The other thing to be careful is with these AK, they love to stick. The lids love to stick to the jar, so we'll deal with that in a minute. Right, so I'm going to get my paper towel again, which is going to drive the camera crazy, but I'll adjust that in the editing. So first of all, I'm going to do a little test patch. So this is my dirty old cloth I've been cleaning stuff with. So as we can see, that's spraying beautifully. It's coming out really fine. So that's all good. So we'll come along, we'll grab one of the front wheels. What I'm going to do is paint the wheel. If you notice, I'm not masking. I'm going to show you how to paint tyres without masking and get a really nice finish on them. I'm not going to do any masking because basically I don't want to. And I can see I've got a couple of, I'm not sure if it's part of the moulding. No, there's a couple of bits of something in here. I'm not sure if that's part of the moulding, you know. Because both wheels came on the same sprue, didn't they? Yeah, that is actually in the plastic. So I think what we'll do is grab a knife. Let me know in the comments if your kit's got it. I think it's part of the plastic. So definite little, two little nubbins on there. Right, so that's that done. So we can come along, we've done our test spray, so what we can do now is just spray around this wheel rim and build the paint up very, very slowly. We'll just get an angle there just to make sure we get that wheel rim. And there we are, you can see that is basically that. I'm just cutting to where I'm just blowing it off. And you can see now we have, you can kind of see the shadowing effect. So if you're new to airbrushing, that's a great effect for you to learn. Now we'll do this spare wheel. There we go, and then we'll turn it around, do the other side. Just like so, make sure we get the inside of all those holes. As you can see, this is a very, very quick process. We do one of the rear wheels, just going around in circles, just making sure we get the wheel rim. Just like that. Absolute doddle. Go, and then finally this last front wheel. And there you are. And then we have to do the backs of the wheels, which I nearly forgot. But I think what I'll do, I think I'll go into my booth and do them with the extractor on because I'm starting to smell the thinners in the air. So I'll get that done and then I'll be back and we'll do some painting on the chassis. Right, so there we go, wheels all done and chassis has had a quick blast over with the green. And as you can see, like I say, I have blasted it over very quickly and you can see the black showing through. And that's what gives you this kind of shadowy, kind of realistic effect. And hopefully you can see that on there. It's it works very, very well with olive drab. It doesn't work so well with the lighter colours. If I was doing this like in a tan colour, if I was doing the the contour scheme, that one there, I would probably prime it first with like a dark green and then put the tan over. Because if you have the black coming through the tan, it's a little harsh. Perhaps a dark green or a dark brown, and then you'll get that kind of pre-shaded effect. But that's the kind of look we're looking for now. We're going to have to pick out the exhaust. Obviously, we're going to paint the exhaust. And I think the engine should be like a light blue colour. I think all World War II British stuff. I think engines were painted like a duck egg blue colour. So I think we'll look into that. But we can always do that, and I can show you some brush painting. And for that, we'll use the Revell paints. And we're also going to do brush painting on the tyres to get the tyres nice and grey, because the tyres aren't supposed to be black, as we know. And what we'll do is we use thin paint and let the paint flow into the rim and get a really nice seam on there. Remember, this tyre here we're going to have as new and unused, so that's going to be a lot darker than these, because these will have been in the sun, had the sand and the dirt on them. And if you look at tyres, you will see, I've just noticed they've got valves on them, which is a nice touch. If you look at tyres, you will see they get sort of scratched and kind of go grey and grainy. Just go and look at a van or something that's done a lot of miles. Go look at the tyres and you'll see there's a lot of different colours and sheens and textures and all sorts, especially on an off-road vehicle where it's got mud sort of ingrained into the rubber and stuff. Go and have a look. It's quite interesting to see. So there we are. So we'll leave that to dry, and then we'll be back in a minute and we'll look at doing something else. Okay, so we've done all this now. We've done the wheels, we've done the fuel tanks and everything. So we're up to date. Obviously we haven't fitted the wheels on because we haven't painted the tyres yet. But I'm going to let this paint go dry before I do any painting. So going over the page now, we're going to start on the interior. Now, my original plan with this model was to not do the interior. I was just going to close everything up and have it all closed up so you couldn't see it. But I'm thinking, well, you guys, you might want to do the interior, so I'm going to show you how I'm going about doing it. Now, the inside of the ambulance is basically all cream coloured. What I've done here, because I don't have Humble paints, I don't use them, what I've done is written down the numbers here they're calling out. So 62, which is this area here, and these leather seats and everything is obviously leather, which is Mr. Colour H66. Okay, that's what they're suggesting on these conversion cards I showed you before. So 62 is down here, matte leather, and it's H66, which is model colour aqueous, and then MC is model colour, the lacquer paint, and the T is Tamiya. There's no alternative for Tamiya. Now they've got a Revell colour there of 85. I'm not sure if I've got that colour. 84, no I don't. So basically I should probably be using 66 or brown. I've got a leather brown here, I believe. Nope, that's beastie brown. Where's leather brown? I do have a leather brown here somewhere. I may use that, and I'll show you how I get the sort of leather effect. 72 is khaki drill, which is Tamiya XF49, we can see on there. So we've got that one. That's going to be the sort of the khaki coloured linen over the stretchers. And on the ends here we have the wood, which is 110. Now I'm going to show you how I do wood, and I'm going to paint wood and make it look like wood. Okay, we're going to do it on the floor as well here. Now I'm going to say now to start with, I'm going to be doing some effects that aren't necessarily for the beginner. But if you're watching this and you've got sort of a few models under your belt and you just want to go that extra step, you know, move your models that next step forward, you might want to have a go at this, achieving this wood look. It does look good, it does look effective, and then what we'll do is we'll wear some of the green paint away and we'll see the wood showing through. It looks great, especially when you've got stuff like this with canvas doors rolled back and you can see the floor. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that the floor is visible. If you don't want to do it, absolutely fine. Just paint it green or paint it whatever colour you're doing your truck. But I'm going to show you some effects where I can make leather look like leather. I'm going to make the floor look like wood. I'm going to make these handles here look like wood. And then we're also going to do some pre-shading and stuff to make the cream interior look like it is, which is canvas, I believe. I think it's painted cream, but it's mainly canvas. I've also noticed a bit of a downside to all of this with having the interior on display, because my initial plan is to have this door here open. This is the door that goes into the cab. Have this door open and you'll be able to look through and maybe have the back doors closed. Now the problem with that is we've got it here. Where is the door? There is the door there. So this is the actual driver's side of the door. So this is the front side of the door. You can see it's a lovely moulding. When we turn it over, you can see it's covered in ejector pin marks. We've got two there, we've got two there, and we've got one there. So that's 2, 4, 6, 7 ejector pin marks. This is where the engineering of a kit starts, in my opinion, to fall over. If this was Tamiya, they would have put that ejector pin mark there. Okay, it doesn't need to be there, it could have been there. They could have moved it over 3 millimeters. Reason being, we've got this leather seat this seat base going on, which as you can see fits above those two cutouts. So they could have easily put the ejector pin mark there and then it would have been hidden by the seat. We've also got this one here, this B19. We've got another leather sort of headrest going there. So, or a backrest is it? And that's going to go across these two tabs. Okay? They could have put a couple of ejector pin marks there rather than have them down here perhaps. They could have put those two in there rather than have them on the edge. These here, okay, if they need an ejector pin mark there, they've got an ejector pin mark, they've got an ejector there, so they could have put it there. But, you know, so we're going to have to do some work around that, especially if we're going to have the door open because it's going to be very visible. You'll also find that on the inside face of this bulkhead here, you will see that it is absolutely, this is the face that we're going to be looking at. Hold on. Oh no. Really? Okay, this is really bad. Right. Again, engineering, total disaster. This is the inside of the ambulance area. As you can see, we've got a nice clean moulding, which is all good. So that is inside the back. When you come to the back of the driver's compartment, which is going to be very visible, you can see the thing has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It's got 20 ejector pin marks in it. And we're going to have to deal with those, and we're going to have to make them look lovely because they are all going to be totally visible in sight. And as you can see here again, we've got this leather pouch going there over those two slots. They could have put one there and one there, but nope, they've put one there. We've got on this side, we've got the base for the driver's seat, so that's probably going to cover them, but it's probably not going to be high enough. We've got the spare wheel going there, so that's going to hide those two. This is bad. That is bad engineering. They should have put the ejector pin marks on the inside, not on the side that you're going to see. So whether you're going to have the doors closed up or not, you're still going to have to deal with them, which is a shame. And then coming on to our stretchers and everything, obviously ejector pin marks are underneath, so that's all fine. Got all our interior here, this is the interior sidewalls, ejector pin marks are on the back, so that's all fine. And then the external sidewalls, ejector pin marks are on the inside, so that's all fine. That's all good. On the actual main floor itself, ejector pin marks are all underneath. So ejector pin marks are a pain in the bum because especially if you're going to start using washers and stuff, they stick out like a sore thumb. So we're going to have to deal with that. So that's the first thing I'm going to be doing. I'm going to deal with these ejector pin marks under here purely because I can. I don't really need to, but I'm going to. Same as with the chassis. It just looks better without having them there. So we're going to get this off the sprue, and we'll get this bulkhead off the sprue here because we're going to deal with these ejector pin marks. Right, so these parts are off the sprue now, cleaned up all the sprue nibs. The door, luckily most of those ejector pin marks, well all of them, were raised, so I was able to sand them off. As you can see now, they're all gone. So once that's had a primer coat, we'll see what they look like. Now this, unfortunately, we're going to have to do. This one we're going to have to do. I'm just looking, do we need to do those across there, or are they hidden by the roof? It looks like they may be hidden by the roof, but I'll tell you what, we'll do them anyway because I'm not 100% sure. In fact, let's have a look at the parts. Where are the roof parts? Here it is. So that's going to butt up against there. Okay, yeah, we will need to do it because it looks like that is going to be visible. Just looking here, you've got this area here, the roof, you can see the cab roof is flat going across there. You've got this visible part up here, so we may be putting a capping over that, we shall see. It's very interesting. Look at this a second, I'll be back. Okay, that was very interesting because you can see you've got this here. You've got this sort of flat panel with the ejector pin marks in it. And then we come along to here and we fit the cab roof. And then we come along to here and all of a sudden we've got this lovely sort of shape around here. And I've just noticed that part is actually on the front of the roof. So we don't need to do those ejector pin marks across the top, but we are going to do the rest of them. Now these two here, this one here and this one here, look like they'd be covered by the spare tyre, but just in case we can see down the side of the spare tyre, we're going to do them anyway. And it's good practice, isn't it? So what I'm going to do now, I use this black slow dry super glue again, so I'm going to put a dollop of that there. And I'm going to try something. I haven't actually tried this off camera, so this may not work. I'm going to get some talcum powder. And see what it's like if I mix it with the super glue. And the reason we do this, it thickens up the super glue and makes it a better filler, which is one side, but the main reason I do it, I'm not sure if it's going to work with this super glue or not. The main reason I do it is because it softens the super glue. It makes it easier to sand. That's mixing in there lovely. So you just mix a drop of talcum powder with the super glue and it just makes it a lot easier to sand, because super glue can dry very, very hard and be very difficult to sand. So what we can do now is just put a blob of this in each of these ejector pin marks. See this here, this I think is static, where you get it sort of crazing off. You can see it's done it there, look. It's very, very strange. I don't know why it does it. You can see it doing it all over here as well. It's almost like it's statically charged. Just fill them in. It's working better without the talcum powder, to be honest. Look at that, see that funny shape that it's just done across there? It's almost like it's got static in it. I wonder if I take my Tamiya anti-static brush and brush this part, if it will improve things. It certainly seems to have worked, doesn't it? Yeah, so there we go. Brush your plastic parts with an anti-static brush. Oh no, it's done it there. So maybe it's the glue that's statically charged. So because the what sprays off is so fine, it just rubs off its there we go, so that's them all filled in. We can leave that to dry, perhaps put a drop of accelerator on it. And then maybe another coat and we'll see how it looks. So I'll get the rest of these done and then I'll come back and we'll sand them down. Okay, so there we go. All the ejector pin marks all filled in. Luckily all the ones on the door were raised. They were just a case of sanding them out, so they're gone. But you can see how many ejector pin marks there are. This thing, it's absolutely ridiculous. But you know, that's not a problem. Underneath the floor is no issue, but here I think they should have put them on the other side. Definitely you should have had them on the inside. You know, because if I leave it, if there's a slight mark on any of these here and it's visible, then it's, you know, it's like it's right here. It's there in your face, whereas it's on the inside. You kind of have to look for it. So I wish they'd done that, but never mind. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get a coat of black Mr. Surfacer on here, just so I can see that they're all gone. Same on here. I will probably undercoat the whole thing in black, and then I'll show you some special effects with the painting that you can do. As I say, I'm going to repeat myself again. This video is aimed at beginners, and what I'm doing is building the model out of the box. I'm not adding any bits and pieces. All I'm doing is some painting effects and showing you how I go about getting these painting effects. So for those of you that are absolute beginners, you can just follow along, build it, paint it, whatever you might wish to brush paint it. For those of you that have a few models under your belt and you want to just go that step forward, you're already into airbrushing, you might want to try some of the effects I'm doing here and go from there. But I'm not sure if you can see it, if it's still visible, but you can basically see on that wheel how it's kind of shadowy, you know, because it's got that black behind it rather than the tan. Rather than trying to cover that tan colour plastic with the green, I'm just trying to put a green colour into some black. You know, and as I say, you can see it on the chassis here. You know, if I just had a green painted part next to it, you'd see the difference. So there we go. So I'm going to get this prime black, and we'll leave it for there. I think we're on about the hour, so I'm going to basically leave it there, and I'll be back for part 6. And in the meantime, I'm going to get this painted black. I may get some green on it as well, and then what I'm going to do is turn it over, and I'm going to show you how to achieve the effects on here with the wood. And then we'll also achieve some effects on the insides and everything with some shading. So I'll see you for part 6. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.